the midterms fast approaching, we thought it was time to check into the healthcare law and see how much of an impact it will have in, say, Kentucky. Now, Kentucky has an exchange setup called Kynect, which has been pretty effective in getting people health insurance. According to a recent Gallup poll, the uninsured rate dropped from 20% to around 12%. Now, most of those are, of course, low-income Kentuckians signing up for Medicaid. It's pretty good, right? Well, for example, one of those Kentuckians, and this was in an article in the New York Times, they mentioned a woman by the name of Robin Evans. Now, she works as a warehouse packer for about $9 an hour. She's got high blood pressure and something called Graves' disease, which sounds pretty grave. Go on if you want. Now, she used to be uninsured, meaning she wasn't able to get treatment before the law. And I'm assuming Graves sort of counts as a pre-existing condition, meaning she wasn't able to get insurance, probably due to that. But now she has Medicaid. Now, how does she feel about having Medicaid? Quote, "I'm tickled to death with it. It's helped me out a bunch." Great. Mission accomplished. So we can all assume that she's voting against Mitch McConnell then, who has pretty much said that he would rip out the health care law root and branch. Right? Right? Not so much. Quote, "Born and raised Republican. I ain't planning on changing now." So there you go. Even with all the successes in Kentucky and around the nation, there are still people who hate the president so much that they'll vote against their own interests. For example, the same woman said this about Obama. Quote, "Nobody don't care for nobody no more, and I think he's got a lot to do with that." That doesn't even make any sense. Nobody don't care for nobody no more? I don't... Oh...
The double negatives, they hurt. They hurt.
This is a mindset, I think, that really just kind of boggles me when people vote against their own interests. And sadly, there are enough people in Kentucky who will still probably do it and vote for Mitch McConnell. And not to say Allison Grimes is all that much better. She's got her own problems. And she's even distancing herself from the health care. But seriously, what the hell is wrong with people these days? Sean, what do you think?
So, like Bill Maher has a good line about this, about how people vote for what they want, but they never vote to say thank you, right? So this would be an example, if you're of that opinion, of that in practice. But this actually traces back to if you've read the book or seen the movie Freakonomics, like people actually vote on what they believe is a national interest and not very much on a selfish interest. And like maybe that's a mixture of ignorance and like nobleness, or if you want to call it a noble ignorance, then maybe that's the cause. But a lot of the times people will vote against their self-interest if they think if they think it will better the country or something like that. And maybe she's of that mind, but it's just funny that she got Medicaid through the Medicaid expansion, which the Democratic governor accepted the expansion through Obamacare, and like she's like happy with her Medicaid, I assume, but is voting for Mitch McConnell, who is against it. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but like again, she might be a vehement one-issue pro-lifer or a one-issue gun person or something like that. We don't know.
Yeah, that last point I think is a lot of it. Now, obviously, a lot of it is just the whole tribalism thing, my tribe versus your tribe. And President Obama is not in her tribe, you know, he's not in her party tribe, he's not in her race tribe, you know, like there's so many different things that, you know, she sees him as other than. But it could very much be the whole one issue thing. I know very, very reasonable people, you know, who will admit that they're one-issue voters, and you know, I think there's some issues that might be, you know, important enough for that, and then there's other people that won't admit they're one-issue voters, but that's, you know, what it comes down to, and then there's other people who just, you know, vote for the side they're supposed to vote for, you know, their quote-unquote tribe. But to her point about, you know, people not caring for each other, like, okay, so you hate this law that as flawed as it is, brought health care to people, and it's called Obamacare, and it made us at least not be completely backwards in terms of developed nations and healthcare access, and then in the same breath turn around and say you're not voting for him because people don't care for people and it's his fault. Like, you hate this, you know, the one of the most caring laws of all time is, again, as flawed as it is, I'm not here to sing praises about Obama, but like, clearly there's a disconnect here between her values and, you know, and President Obama's record, and I think it comes down to you know, probably us versus them mentality, or she could be a one-issue voter.
I'm more inclined to think that she's a tribalist, right? Born and raised Republican. I ain't planning on changing now. That pretty much sums up where she's at. I've always been a Republican. Never mind that the Republicans have moved incredibly far right to the fringes, because she's like around 50 years old, I believe. So she was around back when, I don't know, the Republicans were less batshit crazy right wing and would actually come up with certain ideas to actually help the country and help people instead of just corporations, who I guess are people.
Yeah, no,
according to them.
That's an excellent point. I mean, you get that a lot in the South, you know, on both sides. You know, they're just straight yellow dog Democrats down here who are as racist as they can possibly be, but whenever Obama's, you know, in the ballot, they vote for him because he's the Democrat, you know. But they're just they'll run him down his entire presidency and say horrible things about his race, but they voted for him, you know.
Politics is a strange thing, man. It's a strange thing.